Contemporary, relevant, timeless. You are now listening to Open Forum with Suzana Md Samsudi. IKIM FM, inspirasi utama anda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good afternoon to all dear listeners of IKIM FM. Welcome to this brand new episode of Open Forum. I'm your host, Patricia Afrina. Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much for listening to us from wherever you are. Either you are listening to this through radio or even through our social media pages, Facebook and YouTube. And in this episode of Open Forum, we are going to look into the topic Beyond the Rules, what Islam really wants from you. And if you look at in today's age, where religious practice is often reduced to checklists and rules, many are left wondering, is Islam just about obligations, or is there a deeper vision that the faith is calling us toward to, which is a vision of meaning, balance, and human flourishing? So to talk about it, I have here in the studio with me for today is Puan Suzana Md Samsudi, who is the fellow at the Center for Economics and Social Studies, AMAS IKIM. Assalamualaikum, Puan.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It is such a pleasure to have you back in our studio for today's episode of Open Forum, Puan. So as I mentioned in the introduction just now, that for today's episode, we are going to look into the topic Beyond the Rules, what Islam really wants from you. So for the past few episodes, right, since today is the fourth episode of Open Forum, so for the past three episodes, we have talked about the true essence of Islam. For example, we talk about Islam in modern world. We also talk, for example, in the previous episode, we talk about the view or the position of women in Islam perspective. So in this episode, we will like to look at into the personal perspective. This time is from you. So if you look at today's world, right, the aim that we want to try to answer here is that, is Islam really a difficult religion? For some, as we know, the rituals, the rules, the discipline, right? It all all seems to be intense and even overwhelming for some people. Like, because in other religions, they don't have, you're having to pray 5 times a day, right? But is that a really full story, or are we actually missing something deeper, something more beautiful, or even more human? So as a starting for today's conversation point, I'd like to ask you, in recent times, the word Shariah itself, right? Shariah has been one of the most misunderstood and also misrepresented terms, especially in media and also in public discourse. So even within the Muslim community ourselves, words like fatwa can invoke anxiety, as though there are always harsh rulings rather than guidance. So as a starting for this conversation, Puan, can you share with us about Shariah and fatwa? Why do these words trigger fear or confusion to some people?
Thank you, Patricia, for inviting me again to this open forum slot.
Such a pleasure, Puan.
Alright, okay. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrahli sadri wa yassirli amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Okay. So we start with the first question for this topic today, which is beyond rules. So, what, how to say, beyond rules, and what
Islam really wants from you.
What Islam really wants from you. So, for this topic, I think what we need to really ponder about Islam is to understand why Islam demand us to do certain things.
Yes.
So when it comes to the word Shariah, as you mentioned just now, so we know that in Islam we have a specific so-called law that
yes,
bind us as a Muslim that we need to follow.
the Shariah law.
Yes, correct. So this very much different with other faith or religion that probably other religion might emphasize more on the spiritual aspect. Not to say that Islam doesn't have it, but I would say that Islam is such a comprehensive religion that we have both the spiritual aspect and also the the Sharia aspect, the law that comes with like the modern world, we will say our legal,
Yes.
our law, that how we should do our transaction with each other among people, how we should behave ourselves with our family members, and
Yes.
how should we behave even among between Muslim and non-Muslim, right? So
Yes.
that's all come with the law. So but uh, there is good and bad side of it.
Okay.
The good side of it is that Islam is such a beautiful faith that it makes us, it's so comprehensive that, you know, it's almost impossible not to think of any specific things. It's even simple tasks that we are doing every day that doesn't come with the, you know, either the legal aspect, I mean the
see.
Shariah law,
Yes.
or the ethical aspect,
Yes.
the ethics of doing things. Even, you know, the daily small task routine that we are doing, like sleeping, or even, you know, going to the toilet, how to behave
How
in the
brief.
in the restroom, I would say. To that
To
extent,
that very detail.
yes, to that extent that Islam guides us, the followers.
Basically,
So
how do we live
yes,
our life?
so if we start with the basics, so you know, upon, you know, believing that Islam as your way of life.
Yes.
So you start with the pillar of Islam. So there are 5 aspects of the pillar of Islam. So like you mentioned just now, Puan Patricia, that apart from Shahada is the declaration that we believe in that Allah is the God, and also the Prophet Muhammad as our Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes.
And then we have another one. After we believe, we profess our Shahada, then it comes the Salah, the prayer.
Yes.
So 5 times a day.
5
So
times a day.
for many, I'm very sure for many of us, we feel like, especially during these days, this modern world, right? So we have, you know, we feel like time is so short. There's so many things we want to do. So like
hectic
it's just
life,
like an additional burden to us to
Allahu
perform, to
Akbar.
make sure that we perform it as, you know, as
As
you know,
perfect,
following
as
following
fulfill as
the,
possible.
yes, and also to be timely, because we have time, right? We cannot, you know, 5 times a day that there it how to
The
say,
specific timings for
yes,
each of the prayer.
Islam guide us to be someone disciplined with
Of
the
course.
time, and also with the you know, the connection with God, for example, through this prayer 5 times a day. And then we have zakat. In Islam, you know, the good thing is that when it comes to charity, we are not talking about the voluntary aspect, but we also have the compulsory aspect. It's
Yes.
not much. For me, 2.5% in general is not much, but it's, I think if we do it good enough, it will be sufficient, you know, to reduce the wealth gap between the rich and,
And
the
also the
poor.
poor, yes.
Yes. So that is zakat. The 4th one is the fasting or saum. This is a specific, you know, I'm sure other faiths also, they have their own way of fasting. But in Islam, we have a specific dedicated month for just fasting. And
Yes.
it's that dedicated month, that means it's a 30 days
30 days
a year. It's not easy, especially for someone who, you know, new to Islam,
Yes.
to fast during Ramadan. And the last one, we perform the Hajj, Hajj or pilgrimage to Mecca once in a lifetime, if possible. So that alone, you know, only five basic things in Islam. I think we might think that that 5 things alone are so difficult to practice as a Muslim, to live and practice as a Muslim. So that is how that is, I think, the misunderstanding that we need to, you know, to
address.
to make the to get the right perception and right understanding about Islam. So in Islam, yes, there are things that you need to do, there are things you need to perform, but everything's you know, if you want to do it, they come with the guidelines, how to do it, who should do it, why you should do it, and, you know, all these things. So for example, yes, in prayer, in salah, for example, you have to stand, but there are people who are, you know, because of the health reason, they cannot perform it properly, so they are allowed to sit, for example. So that is how I would say the ease that come with the
The challenges or
yes,
difficulties that you're going
with
through.
the practice.
Yes.
If you think that 30 days in a month is very difficult, and you for health reason, you are also allowed to be exempt and fast later for that fasting during Ramadan. For zakah, of course, if you are, there are, we call it haul and nisab. That means if you meet the criteria for a year and you reach a certain amount, then only you pay your zakat. So it's like a tax. Not everyone have to pay the tax, right?
Yes.
And even the normal tax, like income tax that comes with the, the
The
tier.
tier.
Yeah, but for zakat, it's a
Equal.
one rate across the board.
Yes.
Everybody pays the same amount. But what makes you, whether you pay or not pay, is depending on your amount of wealth and how long you the health, you own the wealth. So that is comes with the zakat. And then the hajj, of course, is compulsory, but that come with the your affordability. And it's not when you say whether you are afford to perform that ibadat, that hajj. It depends on not only your wealth, your financial, but also your health and many other things. So there's always all these rules, exception when it comes to the practice that you need to do. So that's, I think, why we need to do certain things, the obligation as a Muslim. That is the basic thing of the Shariah. Because the Shariah is, it come with it's a law of Islam that is not, it's not designed by human. It's come with from the God, from Allah,
The divine.
that
Yes.
that demand us as a Muslim. But of course, it, as I mentioned just now, we need to first understand how to perform it properly.
Yes.
And why we need to perform it. Otherwise, if you just perform, even if you can make it like a perfect way of like how you should do it, but without understanding why you need to perform the solar, for example, it become ritual, and I think after some time you feel like it's a burden. But if you put the effort to understand why you need to do it, then it becomes easier and easier, because you will reach a stage where you really understand, and you want to even perform more. That's why you come like when it comes to the solar prayer, it's not just obligatory. You don't feel like you start
Basically,
to
it
think that
means that
5
you don't
times
get to
is too.
menghayati.
I need more for the connection.
Yes,
Just like
yes, I
when you start
understood.
have the connection like with your internet, for example, right? You see like how I'm only doing it for 5 minutes. You start to have increases like 5 hours a day. That
Yeah.
is really sufficient for your your media diet, for example. Like imagine this is your spiritual diet.
Spiritual
You need
diet.
it. Yeah, the you after you understand why you need to perform the solar, then you will appreciate it better. So
Subhanallah.
I think even to explain more about the fatwa, as you mentioned just now, I think even in Malaysia, not to say among Muslim and non-Muslim, about among the Muslim itself, because fatwa, yes, we have the Shariah that is very clear what is permissible and what
What's
is
not.
prohibited.
Yes.
But along that and it's very I would say it's very few how to say the prohibition that explicitly mentioned in the Quran. But those things, the gray areas, there are so many things that makes the differences among the scholars, among the so-called the mufti,
The mufti.
that we reach to the point that should we follow this one, this fatwa. Even in Malaysia, we take the example. In Malaysia, we have 14 states.
Yes.
And each state come with their own Islamic state religious council.
Yes.
And they have their own council. And for example, there are certain issues, there are certain view that when we say the scholars of the mufti in, for example, in wilayah Persekutuan, for example, would be different than in Kelantan or Terengganu.
Yes.
So, of course, ideally, people in Kelantan might want to listen and to hear the fatwa of Kelantan. But for certain things, for example, yes, they are Kelantanese, but they work in KL, Kuala Lumpur, and they start to be confused. Oh, should I follow this fatwa or this fatwa, for example? So that is, again, if you don't really understand the things, so that become the burden. But as you know, it's a learning process. As we try to understand more and more, I think that's come the ease of doing the practices as a Muslim. Yeah.
So it has to be started from the knowledge itself. So in here, in the
Yes.
context of the knowledge of the religion itself,
Yes,
then
correct.
only you get to understand, get to, just as mentioned just now, to menghayati basically
Yes.
about the ibrah of behind of every practices, every rituals that you do in
Yes.
the, I would say in the practicing here in the rituals in Islam. And here I think if we go back into the introduction, right, is Islam a difficult religion? And I think it comes rooted from that mindset that Islam is a rigid religion, but in fact it's
Correct.
not. As mentioned
Yes.
by Puan, you just now mentioned that, for example, if you are sick, it doesn't have mean that you have to stand up. For example, if you're not
Yes.
able to stand,
Yeah.
there's I would say rukhsah, permissible
Yeah.
for you to solat in a way that you are comfortable. If you
Yes.
can sit, you can sit. Or if you cannot get up, you just have to lay in your bed. Yes, you can perform your salat from your bed.
Yeah.
And here from every I would say in every situation and every difficulties or problems, there's a rulings for it. So that's
Yes.
how beautiful
Yes.
the religion of Islam is, how perfect it is, how
Yes.
comprehensive it is.
Yes.
As you mentioned, in the context of it is a way of life.
Yes.
Everything that we do.
Just imagine this one. When we talk about human being, there are people who are perfectly healthy, and there are people who are disabled,
Yes.
people who are sick. So Islam accommodate those people.
All people.
Yes, to still, just because you are disabled, we don't exempt you to do the solah. No, you still have them, but you can do it in your own way. How beautiful it is.
Subhanallah.
Right.
Yes, of course. MashaAllah, Puan, I believe you have a lot more to talk
Yeah.
about for this conversation, but we go for a short break
Okay.
first. And to our listeners, if you have any questions that you would like to ask to Puan Suzana, or even if you want to share your thoughts on today's conversation, you can leave it on the comment section of this posting on Facebook and YouTube, or you can simply contact us through our WhatsApp konti at 011-29004. 004. So we go for a short break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to Ikim FM, inspirasi utama anda.
Nah, wari-wari saya, Radio Ikim kat Seremban 102.7 FM. Dengar ya.
The Sultan Ahmet Mosque is a historical mosque in Istanbul, the largest city in Turkey and the capital of the Ottoman Empire. It is located at the Sultan Ahmet Square, opposite to the Hagia Sophia Church. The mosque is popularly known as the Blue Mosque for the blue tiles adorning the walls of its interior. This mosque has become one of the greatest tourist attractions of Istanbul. The mosque was commissioned by Sultan Ahmet I as a rival to Hagia Sophia and designed by architect Mehmet Aga. Construction on the Blue Mosque began in 1609 and took 7 years. Sultan Ahmet died only a year after the completion of his masterpiece at the age of 27. The Sultan Ahmet Mosque, or the Blue Mosque, is one of the 2 mosques in Turkey that has 6 minarets. Each of these fluted, pencil-shaped minarets has 3 balconies, while the 2 others at the end of the forecourt only have 2 balconies. The upper levels of the interior are dominated by blue paint. More than 200 stained glass windows with intricate designs emit natural light, today assisted by chandeliers. The decorations include vases from the Quran, many of them made by Said Qasim Gubari, regarded as the greatest calligrapher of his time. The floors are covered with carpets, which are donated by faithful people and are regularly replaced as they wear out.
positive psychologists, saying thank you is no longer just good manners. It is also beneficial to the self. To take the best known examples, studies have suggested that being grateful can improve well-being, physical health, can strengthen social relationships, reduce positive emotional states, and help us cope with stressful times in our lives. But we also say thank you because we want the other person to know we value what they have done for us and maybe encourage them to help us again in the future. The idea that saying thank you makes people more likely to help in the future. Teach your child learns to say thank you early in life. From morning till night, thank you should be part of our everyday language. Saying thank you sets a tone and an acknowledgement that all things are in reality gifts and nothing is due or guaranteed. Saying thank you helps build an inner structure of gratefulness. Nothing should be taken for granted. Practice your thank you today.
Ipoh 102.7.
Welcome back to Open Forum. I'm your host Patricia Afrina, and you're still with us for today's conversation, Beyond the Rules, What Islam Really Wants From You. And still being with me in the studio is Puan Suzana Md Samsudi, who is the fellow at the Center for Economics and Social Studies, EMAS IKIM. So right, Puan, before we went for a break just now, you talk about the why do the words such as Shariah and fatwa trigger fear or even confusion for some people. So we would like to get the ball rolling into I would say, a more bigger picture, as we know that global economic crisis expose the flaws in conventional finance, as you mentioned about the word finance itself. There's a growing interest in alternative models, and yet Islamic finance is still seen by many as technical, full of jargon or symbolic. Some even dismiss it as just a halal version of capitalism. But basically, we know that not many people really understand about what Islamic financial really is. So, for the second question, Puan, can you share with us about the Islamic finance? Why does it often seen as complex or even impractical in a modern economy? Is this really the case?
Okay, continue back with our discussion about beyond rules and what really Islam wants from us. So, we have, we started with our conversation on the Shariah fatwa. Actually, that one is very important, the Shariah aspect, because, with the media and technology nowadays, we can get so much information. But instead of become, more clear of what we should do about Islam, about things in life, but I'm afraid that actually we reach a stage where we are, we reach to the information overloaded. We become more confused and we don't know what is the truth and what is the confusion.
What is wrong because of
Yes.
so many misinformation.
So I would say that probably we can say that media portrayal, when they portray about Islam, for example, talk about Shariah, probably to some people that comes to their mind is, if you are, this hudud law.
Okay.
Yes, if let's say you involve in stealing, for example, so they have these images that you will, your hands will be chopped, for example. So, and then this harsh punishment, if you involve in adultery or zina, for example. And those are, yes, I would say that Islam comes with that one, but whether, with that hard punishment, it's also come with the mercy. And also, so when, you want to strike a balance between these two, a person, yes, they do wrong things, they create harms in the society, even in, I would say that in general, we have prison, we have the other sets of punishment, right?
Of course.
For all these wrongdoings. So the same thing goes to the Islam. And also, it also is not just like, the same punishment for all. It also depends on, how, depends on the
Situation,
in the context, and how big is the harm that you have done. So okay, that is on the Sharia in general, and the Sharia also applies not only to that general practices in life, but also things that are, whether we realize it or not, the economy, the financial aspect, even the money itself. Islam has a very clear guideline what is what is allowed, what is permissible, and what is not.
Okay.
And I would say that when you mentioned just now the halal capitalism, so that is another thing. So some people think that Islam is against capitalism, and some people think that we can create a version of halal capitalism. So that itself is, I think, already a thought provoking, whether whether capitalism is something that Islam is what
Really
is the
allowed.
ideal thing about Islam.
Okay.
So I would say that in general, when you think about it, all this ism is all about thought, about school of thought. So capitalism or socialism or communism, they have
yes.
their ideologies.
The ideology, yes.
Yes. So some of the ideologies could be consistent with the Islamic principles, and some probably not. So Islam has a very clear ethics and etiquettes when it comes to what we call muamalah. So
Okay.
muamalah is the dealing between human and human. So that involve very much your business transaction, your social transaction, how you interact with each other. So there's a code and rules of how binds of how
There's the ethics.
ideally you should do it. So when it comes to Islamic finances, it's the same thing. I would say that three basic principles in Islam when it comes to Islamic finance is riba.
Riba.
So riba is all this. I think it's not just in Islam. Even if you are not a Muslim, you think about it. For example, if you charge interest, people who are in dire need, they need help. So and you are a wealthy person, there's no issue for you at all to help people, and that, for example, you just imagine, very poor people, they need to eat for that day, that
Okay.
particular day, for
Okay.
example. Of course, we have zakat institution to help, but let's say they come to you individually, and you say, okay, I give you this 10 ringgit, you can buy food. Okay,
Lend money.
yeah, okay, and then after this, you pay me back 20 ringgit. I think, just being, human are rational species, rational agent.
Yes.
You think about it, is it, yes, it's logic. It's your wealth, you borrow. You can charge as high interest you want,
Yeah.
know. But, looking at judging from, from the context of emotion, the context of, your empathy, your sympathy towards this kind of people, do you think that is logic for you to do that? To
It's
charge
unfair,
interest?
yeah.
Very unfair. So that is the thing that Islam, really highlight when it comes to the finance. Finance, that means your borrowing, your loan, everything. So okay, another thing is gharar. So gharar is what is known as excessive uncertainty or speculation. Basically, like excessive uncertainty. That means when you doing, when you for example, exchange commodity or exchange certain things between two different persons, you need to be transparent of the quality of the quantity you are transacting between each other. So I think that is very fair and very ethical
Yes.
in dealing with a human in muamalah, as compared to if uncertain, when you, for example, I think this happened with this online, now we are shopping,
The online transaction.
the online shopping. So when you buy things, for example, what is displayed, right? So it looks very big, and when it arrives to you, and it's like,
which is small.
for example, that's just
Yeah.
an example. Or certain things like, for example, you buy foods, you don't know really the taste. They can describe, but
Of course.
how they describe and what you imagine between seller and buyer could be, uncertain things.
Even different preference,
yes.
right?
So that is for in Islam, there is a strict guidelines that you need to be as transparent as possible, to avoid all these things, And I think actually, if you think about it, in Islam, the transaction between human beings actually not really about profit taking. Profit is because you want to compensate people who sacrifice their time, their energy to produce things, for example. So that is part of the amount of profit that you need to charge. But in Islam, the spirits of between this selling and buying actually is to help each other.
To help each other.
Yes. So that's why I think ideally in Islam, when it comes to the business transaction, people, I always read, I don't know about other people, but when I read this, the context from non-Islamic or the Western context, when it comes to business transaction, they always say that it's all about competition. When it comes to business, it's about competition. But in Islam, I think we should take a look more about cooperation.
Cooperation instead of one side only get the benefit.
Yes, right. So if you charge, even because we don't know about the fair value, fair price, for example.
Okay.
So you, for example, when you sell, you want to make profit, but you don't want to charge excessive profit, for example.
Okay.
So, and then for the buyer, because by doing that, you will not burden the buyer, because the buyer they have different class, different affordability. If you charge a very high price, so some people probably, have the difficulty to buy, to purchase.
Yes.
So, but if we dealing our business transaction come with this the spirit of cooperation, and those Western Western oriented business textbook always say that when you want to start a business, you need to start with why. So the why, probably that is with this competition in business, the why becomes the motive for people to support your brand, for example.
Yes.
But in Islam, I think the why is very simple. It comes back to your fardu kifayah.
Fardu kifayah, for the sake of ummah.
Yes, when it comes, we talk about cooperation, for example, that this in the certain places, they are lacking of certain commodities, certain items that they really need.
Yes.
So that is our, certain, some business person, for example, have this fardu kifayah to, fulfill the obligation to meet the needs of the society at that particular place. So there's less issue of competition, because we are, looking around to see who are in need, instead of you being stressed about your profit motivation.
Yes.
Of course, you still can make profit from this thing, but the feeling in they call it the warm glow, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Okay.
That is your
Helping
the warm
each other.
feeling after you help each other.
Mashallah.
That is, I think, the real essence of the pain and mental problem reliever. I should stop there. Otherwise, it will be non-stop.
Something that I learned few years ago, that Islamic, if you look at Islamic business ethics, right, the transaction itself, as you mentioned, that the spirit of cooperation, a transaction can be considered here as, I would say, as a sadaqah, as a voluntary charity, especially when it is conducted with sincerity, with fairness, of course, and focus on benefiting each others, right? As you mentioned, that it's like each helping each other out. So even within a commercial context, it doesn't mean that you cannot get profit. Of course, you can. There's no wrong for you to do it, but at the very root, at the very essence of it, is to actually to help each other out. And in this context, actually, it can be, the transaction itself can be as a form of sadaqah or donation.
That's why there are scholars who define our framework for Islamic economy as a Islamic gift economy.
Islamic gift economy.
So, when you're doing your business, you fulfill other people's need. As I mentioned just now, fardu kifayah, it's like whatever your commodity or your goods and services are like, give to each other.
MashaAllah.
Right. So, and people who buy it also, they are like, give back to you, and that's an element, sometimes you feel like, when you don't really set the price like too high, and people feel happy about your services, they pay extra, and that extra becomes like the price becomes like a sedekah jariyah.
Like appreciation.
Yes, the give to each other, and then when you pay, you don't really feel you pay, but you feel like you give sedekah to each other. How beautiful it is. Yeah.
MashaAllah, how beautiful the religion of Islam is. Even if you look at, I would say, because usually when we talk about business transaction, right? If you look at it in a, I would say, Western perspective, some people have this, I would say, mindset, or it has the negative connotation of it, because people would think, oh, the business person is a greedy person, evil. All the people who involved in business are evil. But if you look at it in Islamic perspective, subhanallah.
Yes, and I think of all the prophets, that we understand before Islam, the good thing about the Islam is that it comes the role model, our Prophet Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He himself was
a business person.
Started at the age of 12. There must be, can you imagine like how from the very tender age he learns all this concept, of helping each other through trade, through business,
transaction.
Yes,
MashaAllah. And I'll say again, as we mentioned in earlier of the conversation about the beauty of Islam, that it is comprehensive and it covers in every aspects of our life. MashaAllah, Puan, we still have a lot more to talk about in this conversation, but we go for another short break. And again, listeners, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, perhaps in a finance or business perspective, that you want to ask to Puan Suzana, you can leave it on the comment section of this posting on Facebook and YouTube, or you can simply contact us through our WhatsApp contact at 011-29004-004. And again, we go for a short break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned to IKIM FM, inspirasi utama anda.
عن أبي محمد الحسن بن علي ابن أبي طالب سبط رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وريحانته رضي الله عنهما قال: حفظت من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك. رواه الترمذي والنسائي، وقال الترمذي: حديث حسن صحيح.
On the authority of Abu Muhammad al-Hassan, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the grandson of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the one much beloved of him, may Allah be pleased with them both, who said: I memorized from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, leave that which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. Related by At-Tirmizi and An-Nasa'i, At-Tirmizi saying that it was a good and sound hadith.
I'm back on season 2. Hello, Brother Roger, happening only on IKIM FM every Saturday. Don't forget to tune in every Saturday at 5 p.m. only on IKIM FM. Inspirasi utama anda.
Hiburan mendidik jiwa. Hanya yang terbaik di IKIM FM. Inspirasi utama anda.
Welcome back to Open Forum. I'm your host Batrisha Afrina, and you are still with us for today's conversation, Beyond the Rules, what Islam really wants from you. And again, still being with me in the studio is Puan Suzana Md Samsudi, who is the fellow at the Center for Economics and Social Studies Emas IKIM. Right, Puan Suzana, for the last 30 minutes, we have talked about the true essence of what really Islam wants from you. So we started with the the conversation of the word Shariah and fatwa, of why these words trigger fear or confusion to some people, and then we eventually lead the conversation into the global economic. We talk about the Islamic finance, as I mentioned that unfortunately that some people call it as a halal version of capitalism, and in fact it is not. And this different, even the way the transaction, the way how Islam look at what a transaction means here, also different from, I would say, the Western perspective. And as we are reaching, I would say, the final part of this conversation, I'd like to ask you about actually going back into the really topic of today's conversation, what Islam really wants from us. So if you look at in today's society, high pressure, right? Especially we look at, it's mentioned in the earlier level conversation that we lead in a life that is busy. Some even, unfortunately, some people they think that they don't have time to perform their 5 times prayer, astaghfirullah. And so if you look at it, religious observance can feel like just another burden on our to-do list. But Islam isn't just about rituals. Again, as I would say, the theme of today's conversation, that Islam is a way of life that meant us to lead to harmony, responsibility, and also inner peace. So, as I would say, to close to this conversation, what Islam really wants from us.
Interesting, right?
Yes,
Okay,
Puan.
does Islam really wants from us? So, again, back to our previous conversation about Shariah, fatwa. That's all the guidelines laid down to us to practice our life as a Muslim. So comprehensive, right? Regardless of what type of person, whether you are a male or you are female, whether you are old, whether you are young, whether you are a children.
Yes.
So you have all these sets that that will be suit for you. If let's say you want to perform your prayer, so you are okay, just give an example, like for male and female, we have different way, what you should wear.
Yes.
Your aura, right?
Yes.
Which part you have to cover if you are a male and if you are a female. So that's all. I think it's very beautiful because it's comprehensive. It's we have to appreciate the diversity. And that comes
Subhanallah.
also with the even the fatwa. That's why it's very important to understand that it comes from different cultural contexts, and in fact maybe fatwa, as the time evolve, even the fatwa also need to accommodate the time of a certain
The modern
yes,
times.
and the technology that comes with certain time period, for example. So the fatwa also can, it's not, I would say it's dynamic, it's not static. So that show like, the rule of Islam is always there to accommodate throughout our life
Yes.
in this world.
Yes, for example, like the usage of artificial intelligence,
Yes,
right?
AI. We should welcome all kind of technology, but what really matters is actually how we should really benefit according to the Islamic ethics. Like that is when we really need to understand, for being a Muslim, what does Islam really wants from us, right?
Yes, the point.
From you, from me, and from all of us. So I
Yes.
think goes back to, these are all come from the education and experience, I would say. Some that we learn in the schools, for example. Some we learn from the media. But be careful, if you get the information from media, always check the source of the information, because as I mentioned, even the fatwa can be, have a variety at different places,
Yes,
different
different
times. So
version, yeah.
that's when you try to get one view for you that you feel like it suits you.
Okay.
You need to be careful, think thoroughly whether that really a good one for you. So
Okay.
I think what does Islam really wants from us is actually goes back to the first pillar of Islam, which is the shahada.
Shahada.
So from that shahada, actually, Islam wants you to understand that God exists. So the shahada is the profess. It means you profess when you believe. You already have the belief, the iman that the God exists, and the God that exists that you believe is the right God. Because the concept of God, of different faith, of different secular, and because different type of people, they have different belief system.
Yes.
So it's very important for us to make sure that we reach to certain level of the right understanding of the conception of God. But even if you have this misunderstanding, don't worry. Islam will not punish you because of your misunderstanding, as long as you already put the effort, to come to that level,
fully as
understand the
perfect
right
as possible.
understanding. Because
Yes.
I think the perfect understanding is just Allah only knows the perfect thing of all. Because we as a human being, as the creation for by our grand creator, we can only learn so much. Our times is very short in this
Yes.
world. So, and we also have to all this responsibility, our family, our work, our society. So we just take what learn the basic things, and also back to the fardu kifayah, because everybody need to live, they need to have wealth, they need to fulfill their needs.
Yes.
So you probably either you involve in that muamalah by doing business, exchanging commodity or goods, or some for the rest of us, just like you and me, probably we exchange our services. Okay, our talent, our skills, our expertise for that amount of salary that we will use for other things. So
benefits. Yeah.
yes. So what Islam really wants for us is to to have that understanding, to finally reach a stage that yes, Allah exists, and the Prophet Muhammad is the best role model for us to to follow and to live in this world. So that is the basic thing. But some people might think that even without Islam, without this faith, I can I understand, but I don't want to live all these difficulties of being a Muslim, to practice all these things.
Yes.
Okay, to me, it's a gradual things. Islam doesn't burden you to be a perfect Muslim. And even the word perfect Muslim, are very subjective. To some people, being a perfect Muslim means you pray as much as possible, recite the Quran without understanding. That is to some people. But to others, probably they just recite maybe, I don't know, half a page a day, but they really understand, really comes to their heart, and they, it's totally
It's different from
things.
different people.
Yes. And I would like to quote this from Surah Al-Baqarah, from the Quran, verse 286, which somehow mentioned that Allah does not burden a soul more than what you can afford or what you can bear. So don't worry about all these things. Allah put, life is a test.
Yes.
And Allah put the test for every individual differently. So don't worry about that. And another, I would say that, there's another verse that say, for every difficulty that comes with the ease. That is another thing, another beautiful thing, to
Mashallah.
believe that don't worry about, if you are, just like when we mentioned before, people in Gaza, I'm sure that yes, that is their test. It's not easy being a Muslim, difficult for them, but that definitely they have a big reward that comes for them for the test that they have to go through.
Inshallah.
And I think with the the time limit that we have, I just want to emphasize that apart from all those rituals and the 5 pillars in Islam, I think the most important thing nowadays is that for us to also to understand that being a Muslim, actually, apart from your individual or personal obligation, you also need to fulfill your roles as a Khalifah. Everybody
as
is
Khalifah.
like, as a Khalifah, you are a leader in this world to take care of the earth. for example.
Yes.
Because Earth is our home. I'm not saying that you have to take care of other planets because that is not, that's beyond us, I would say. So everybody plays the role to, now people say about the environmentalism, about the climate change.
Sustainability.
But yes, all those things, Islam already, comes with that thing that explicitly
The
mentioned,
essence of
yes,
it.
in the Quran, that we are here as a Khalifa, as a leader. Everyone is a leader. Either you are a self-leader or leader to your family, to the community, but you need to play the part that we have to look after the earth. So that's, you see, from the very, how to say, the routine of being a Muslim to the, all this global thing. I think beyond your country, beyond your community is how we can collaborate, live as a Muslim, and also coexist with the non-Muslim, to play our bigger role. So that is, I think, what Islam really wants from you. Just to answer back the question, what Islam really wants for us, and whether Islam is a difficult religion. So I want to all the listeners out there to know that Islam is beyond compliance. It's not about, being Shariah compliant. It's about connection. The connection is more important. At its core, Islam doesn't just want rule followers. So it calls for mindful, for ethical, for compassionate human beings. So when you think the 5 times prayers is difficult, so remember that prayers are not just rituals, but they are reflections. The rules are there, but they are not walls. They are pathway, a compass for us to guide us in life. And the structure isn't meant to control, the Sharia structure, but to cultivate peace, purpose, and personal growth. Islam is not difficult by design. It's deeply human by nature. It challenges us, not to break us, but to build us. So maybe the question is whether it's not about Islam. Is Islam too hard? Maybe it's, am I ready to be the purpose behind all this practice? So with that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Puan Suzana, for your sharing. And again, I would like to re-emphasize that, as mentioned by Puan Suzana in the earlier of the conversation, when we understand the purpose or the ibrah behind of every practices, of every rituals that we do, we will find that Islam is not just a religion, but also a relevance or the way of life. And with that being said, again, thank you, Puan Suzana, for your sharing on today's conversation. And to our listeners, thank you also for listening to us today. If you have any questions or would like to share your thoughts on today's conversation, you can leave it on the comment section of this posting on Facebook and YouTube, or you can simply contact us through our WhatsApp contact at 011-29004-004. And again, Puan, thank you very much for being with us in the studio. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
And dear listeners, again, thank you very much for listening to us today. Don't forget to tune in to us next week for more conversation with Puan Suzana. All this only on IKIM FM, Inspirasi Utama Anda.